Our brains are wired to love stories. Stories help us make sense of the world around us. Stories are how knowledge has been passed on for generations and thousands of years. That's how the human race has survived long before the invention of books and the internet. Stories are deeply ingrained in our psyche. They release emotions, are simple to understand even for small children. This ease of understanding is especially useful when faced with the complexity of a video game. Think of your Hearts of Iron, Dwarf Fortress, Europa Universalis, Stellaris. How many people have given up on these games compared to titles like Minecraft or The Sims? It's not that these games are simpler, but the stories that they offer are indeed simpler. Stories help us remember our experiences in life. What are your memories, if not stories you tell yourself about a past reality? Stories help us deal with the events of life and be engaged. And that's our subject today: how to make engaging video games like a pro. I made a video earlier about how games were made by professional game developers. You may disagree with what I said in that video because I presented game development through the cold lens of game mechanics and gameplay loops. The structure of a video game is what it is. Games are made of gameplay mechanics organized in loops. However, this is like hearing a chemist talk about the molecular composition of a tasty dish. It's not wrong per se, but we're missing the context. We're missing the human emotion, the taste, the experience. Today we're going to talk about that context. We're going to talk about the narrative aspects of game design and how narrative and game mechanics are intertwined and work together to create an engaging experience. First, we need to explore the differences between a narrative and a story. A common misconception is that narrative and story are the same thing. In reality, they are distinct concepts. And while some games have no traditional story, all games have a narrative in some form. So what is a story? A story is a predefined sequence of events, oftentimes crafted by the developer. A story is made of characters, dialogue, cutscenes, and plot twists. This is where you find your heroes and the motivations behind their actions. It's the kind of storytelling you see in books and movies. Half-Life 2 is the story of Gordon Freeman resisting the Combine, a totalitarian alien empire that has enslaved humanity. You become a symbol of rebellion, and with the help of various characters, you lead the human resistance against the invaders. What is narrative? A narrative is the meaning that the player finds in your game. Your game can communicate this meaning with varying levels of strength. Push this limit to the stronger side and you have a story with the defining elements that we talked about earlier. And when the game only suggests a narrative through mechanics, systems, and environment storytelling, then a more emergent gameplay takes place. Emergent gameplay are situations that the developer didn't plan for. Imagine digging a network of tunnels in Minecraft, building the weirdest contraptions in Besiege, or finding the most creative ways to land on the moon in Kerbal Space Program. The developer gives you the tools and the toys, sets some loose rules, establishes systems, and lets you explore all the possibilities afforded by those systems. A narrative is what gives context to your gameplay. I can swing a sword to commit evil acts on a village, but I can also swing that sword to save the same village from a dragon. A game doesn't have to be too sophisticated to communicate meaning. Even Tetris has a narrative about being organized, eliminating the problems in your life, and perhaps struggling with disorders such as OCD or perfectionism. Why is narrative more important than story? Games are an interactive media. Given the chance, most people will skip your cutscenes, not read your text, skip your dialogues, and get straight to quote-unquote the good part. which is the gameplay. The reason why people skip the story is because control is one of the fundamental pleasures that you get as a player. You have control over your character or your world or your car, and as soon as there is a cinematic or an interruption in gameplay, the game takes that control away from you, and for most people that is very unpleasant. Narrative, on the other hand, exists all throughout the game, and people can experience it while enjoying the control that the game allows them to have. As an indie developer, you may be working alone or in a small team, and in most cases, your resources are limited. So for you, it makes much more sense to focus on the narrative rather than a story. So what is narrative in practice? What does it look like? Let's see some examples. Let's talk about Doom's narrative. Doom is a great example of a weak story and a strong narrative. If you ask most people what the story of Doom is, they'll likely give you some simple answer. You're a space marine on Mars, the gates of hell have opened and now you're fighting demons. If you're lucky, they might recall a few more details. Yet, beneath the surface, Doom has a deeper lore than it gets credit for. The series isn't just about mindless slaughter, it's built on a foundation of dark sci-fi and twisted mythology. Central to this is Argent Energy, a powerful, otherworldly resource harnessed by the UAC or the Union Aerospace Corporation to fuel humanity's future. But this energy source has a sinister origin. It's drawn from hell itself, extracted from the suffering of the damned. This moral compromise sets the stage for the chaos that follows, as greed and ambition ultimately tear open the gates of hell, unleashing an apocalyptic invasion. But as much as this is interesting, this is most likely not your experience as a player. As a player, you're experiencing the true narrative of Doom. You are a badass space marine, a force of nature, an unstoppable engine of destruction. Luckily, the developers were aware of the actual narrative of the game, and they designed the gameplay to reinforce that narrative. So the gameplay is fast, brutal, and relentless. That's why Doom is such a massive success. Every mechanic in the game reinforces its narrative. Survival isn't about playing it safe, it's about aggression. The game punishes cowardice and rewards momentum. This is most evident in the glory kill system. Instead of retreating behind cover to heal, players are encouraged to dive into the action. Executing weakened demons in brutal melee finishers restores health, while chainsaw kills drop ammo. This forces players to engage the enemy head-on, making every fight feel like a high-speed dance of destruction. Doom is successful despite the story not really aligning with the narrative. This means the developers could have skipped the story entirely, and the game would still have been a massive hit. This is a great lesson for you. Whether your game has a story or not, make sure your narrative is on point, and make sure that your gameplay is always reinforcing that narrative. XCom is one of the few games where story, narrative, and gameplay align perfectly. The game isn't just about fighting aliens, it's about managing a desperate resistance effort against a superior force. Every mechanic in the game reinforces this narrative to create an immersive and high-stakes experience. The game's narrative of desperate war against an alien invasion is directly tied to permadeath mechanics. Soldiers aren't just units, they have names, ranks, nationalities, and unique skill progressions. Players grow attached to them, and losing one often carries both an emotional and tactical cost. This reinforces the theme of sacrifice and the harsh reality of warfare. Every death leaves a gap, and there is no easy reset. Your headquarters contribute to the narrative of you as the player being the commander of a secret organization struggling to keep the world from falling apart. This narrative is reinforced by the gameplay loop of allocating resources, building facilities, researching alien tech, and managing panic levels. When you receive a mission, the game reinforces the narrative of the commander making tough decisions under pressure by making you choose between three scenarios. If you send your soldiers to one city, the other two cities will get attacked, perhaps some people will die there, and the aliens will inevitably gain ground. Okay, let's talk about the chrysalids. An enemy so vile and terrifying, and you don't need a narrator to tell you that. You don't need cutscenes or exposition or long-winded text. You will come to hate these enemies through gameplay. When they eliminate one of your soldiers, these monsters turn the corpse into a zombie, with a gross sound effect to boot, piling on the horror. Suddenly, you're forced to fight and destroy your own teammate who is now an enemy with a massive health bar. Imagine what that means for your squad, watching a friend, a comrade, maybe even a lover or a family member rise as a mindless husk that must be put down. Quite traumatic. And I could go on forever talking about how the narrative is woven into the gameplay in XCom and how XCom 2 and War of the Chosen double down on this. So in case you've never played these games, you definitely should. Let's talk about how to craft good narratives that will keep your players engaged and immersed in your game. From the point of view of the player, narrative can be highly subjective. What you get out of a game can be very different from what other people get out of it. This explains why some games can be so divisive, with some people spending thousands of hours on them and obsessing over them, while other people are bored out of their minds after playing that same game for 5 minutes. And from your point of view as a game designer, narrative can be even more elusive, and there's no real formula for making a good narrative. So all I can give you are some guidelines. First, let's talk about the traditional approach that a lot of people talk about, which is the top-down versus the bottom-up approaches. So the bottom-up approach means that you start with the core mechanics, then you build the world and the story and the content around these mechanics. Some examples that could have used this approach are the Super Mario Bros. Games, where the focus is on the tight platforming first, and then the world and the story are layered on top. Then you have the top-down approach, where you begin with a concept, setting, and a story, and you design the mechanics to support that story. Some examples are Bioshock. It's said that the world Rapture was envisioned first, and the mechanics, like the plasmids, the gunplay, were crafted to fit it. In my personal opinion, these approaches are outdated because they assume that narrative and gameplay are independent from each other. And to be honest, I believe that this is the kind of things that game developers talk about when they talk to the press. So I can easily imagine someone like Hideo Kojima talking to someone from Kotaku and saying this stuff. But you have to remember that AAA studios have massive resources. They can have a team dedicated to the gameplay mechanics and another team dedicated to the story and the setting and the environment and the world. So perhaps these approaches are used, but in a much bigger scale than you and me can even afford to work at. And we're talking about you as an indie developer with limited resources, so you can't afford to split these resources between the narrative on one side and the game mechanics on the other. Then let's talk about the story. In my opinion, for indie developers, they should not care at all about the story. Unless you're making a visual novel, in that case, yeah, definitely worry about the story. But if you're making an action game or an open world game, then the story will be skipped, your cutscenes will be skipped, the lore of your game will most likely be skipped by most people. If your game has some success, there will be a minority of players who will be interested in the lore behind your world and your characters, but that's not something reliable to count on. So in most cases, I would say don't invest your time and your limited resources on story. But what you can do, however, is give context to your game mechanics. If you like to fish, hike, or camp in the woods, then you can use elements from these experiences to enhance the mechanics of your game. So think about your hobbies outside of gaming. What do you enjoy doing? What are the pleasures that you get from these real experiences? But also, what are the drawbacks? Are there resources that you have to manage in order to keep doing these experiences? So all of these things can help ground your game mechanics in something real and ultimately help you craft a unique narrative. Now let's talk about another guideline for crafting great narratives. This is what Rick Davidson, a great teacher and game dev coach, talks about. I'm talking about moments. Moments are one of the most powerful lenses you can use to make your game memorable. Because here's the deal, we don't remember entire games, we remember moments. Think about your favorite games. You probably don't recall all the systems or every level, but you do remember the exact second you beat that impossible boss with one health point left, the first time you looked over a breathtaking open world, like the first time you got out of the sewers in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion and looked over the amazing landscape and all the areas you could go to. And moments can also be made out of hilarious glitches and bugs that broke the game in some funny way. These are what the players carry with them, and these can really make the gameplay experience powerful. So you should design your game around building and delivering moments, not just mechanics. So what are the moments that you want people to experience? Perhaps a moment that surprises the player, where an enemy does something unexpected, a visual reveal that makes someone go wow, a combo chain or physics event that feels so satisfying that it's almost unfair. So you can think of your game mechanics as a vanilla ice cream, and moments are chocolate sprinkles on top, so they can transform something that could be plain or something that people are used to something really unique and memorable. Our brains are designed to give meaning to events in our lives. Let's say you were out on the street and someone calls you a bad name. Your first instinct and the meaning that most people will give to that situation is that that other person has insulted you. So if I come to you and tell you that in fact this person has the Tourette syndrome, or that person has just come out of a mental institution and they have this habit of insulting people and it's a medical condition, then your meaning will change. Now you no longer believe that person has insulted you, and instead of that you may show compassion towards that person. So if you look objectively at the situation, nothing has really changed. That person has said that exact word, but only your interpretation of what that event means has changed. So you can apply the same example to the people who are going to play your game. What is the meaning that they will give to your game mechanics and your gameplay loops? Try to think about it and try to think of ways to guide them towards the meaning that you want them to have. Another question that you can ask yourself is, what emotions do I want the player to feel and when? This is similar to the question of moments, because moments are emotional spikes in the experience of your players. So here try to think of a wide range of emotions. Not all games provide the same emotions. Perhaps you want to mix despair with triumph, with tension, with curiosity. Most people who don't have a lot of experience designing games try to craft these emotions through stories, but it's better to tie them to the gameplay and try to think about emotions in terms of gameplay. Then you can ask yourself, what kind of role does the player assume? Is the player the hero, a cog in the machine, a god, a survivor? Is the player a soldier, or are they a villager, or are they a monster? And we keep talking about a concept in this video, which is reinforcement. So when you think about the role of the player, you have to think about the mechanics in terms of reinforcement. Are they reinforcing the role of the player, or are they undermining it? So ideally you want all the mechanics to be reinforcing that role all the time. Then you have to think about what kind of journey does the player go through. Even if your game doesn't have a story, does the player go on a power journey where they start weak and then become powerful at the end of the game? Are they ignorant about some things and then they get wise afterward? Do they follow a clear arc, even without cutscenes, without dialogue? So that when you add dialogue and cutscenes, they only reinforce that arc and not define it completely. Then ask yourself, how does the world react to the player? And by world, I mean perhaps the NPCs and other entities in your game. Does the world acknowledge the presence of the player, their growth, or is the world cold and indifferent? Does the world change with the player's actions? And speaking of actions, the player is going to make some decisions all throughout your game. So you have to think about these decisions. What are they? Are these decisions meaningful? And what effect do they have on the game? I like using the term lens in this case because all of these questions are lenses through which you can see your game design from different perspectives and capture the elusive nature of game narrative. That's all I have for you today. The purpose of this video is more to make you aware of the importance of narrative and the difference between the narrative and the story. Hopefully this will give you a fresh perspective on designing your game and perhaps will give you some ideas that you can take and make great games out of them. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of this video down below. Don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff, and share this video with a friend. See you later.